the more time goes, the more I'm also open to other kind of music, and there is good things to take in every part of music, I believe, as long this music gives something to your soul.
Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself?
Greetings, here's Vlad from Necrowretch, a salutation from France.
And Vlad has been on the podcast before. Welcome back, Vlad.
Thank you, almost a decade.
Yeah, almost a decade. The last time you were on the podcast, you were actually here in Malaysia. You're on a Southeast Asian tour, I believe, in 2015.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like a long time ago right now, and it was a very good time. It was the first time we came in Asia, so very happy to talk to you again with all after all these years.
Yeah, it's great catching up with you, and it's great that Necrowretch has been so busy. We connected again one more time. We did a Q&A interview around the time that Satanic Slavery came out in 2017. But do you want to tell people what you've been up to since then, since 2017? What's been going on with Necrowretch?
A lot of things actually. We are now releasing our fifth album, and we spent a lot of time to create this one because there was the COVID, the pandemics, and all the lockdowns we had here in France. So mostly all the shows were cancelled in France, in Europe. So we spent, let's say, the last 4 years to work on this new album with a new lineup as well. Change a lot of things in our settings, in our gear in general, in the studio. And so finally, here we are. The new album, Swords of Dajjal, has been released almost 2 months ago, in the beginning of February. And right now, we can come back on the road and continue our progress where we left it just before the pandemic.
So, 2020, you released the album, The Ones from Hell, and you were getting ready to go on the road just as the pandemic hit.
Yes, it's like the Doom album because we everything was cancelled 6 days before we go in tour. So really everything was ready. The luggage were ready. All the merchandising was already sent in Poland. We were where we were supposed to start the tour. I mean, there was a lot of cost, of course, involved in these travelings, and everything got cancelled. So it was pretty hard. But I know we are not the only band in this position. It was the same for everyone. So unfortunately, our fourth album, The Ones from Hell, didn't really had the treatment it deserved. I mean, mostly our fan base bought this album and we had good feedback about it, but it was not possible to reach a new audience, some new fans with this album. And it's too bad because it was a good one also, but all in all, it was also good to have this time off. So we spent more time producing the next album. Maybe there was a lot of frustration, and we use this frustration, maybe this hate, to create a more intense album. So, I mean, here we are. Too bad. I wish we will not have a pandemic a second time, to be honest.
Yeah, let's hope, right? So in 2015, when we met, we spoke a little bit about the influences you had when you created Necrowretch, and you mentioned bands like Death, Nihilist, Merciless, Grotesque. I'm curious, has the sound of Necrowretch changed since then?
Yes, of course, it changed. First, because as musicians, we progress every day in terms of technique, but also in terms of what kind of music we listen, the more time goes, the more I'm also open to other kind of music, and there is good things to take in every part of music, I believe, as long this music gives something to your soul. And so I guess the sound changed a bit, but still it's still somewhere between black and death metal. Maybe it's less death metal and more black metal than before. I mean, most of the people tell me this for the new album, but it's still somewhere in extreme metal. The difference is before we had a really underground sound, mostly because we didn't have the knowledge and the capacity to do a professional sound. And within the years, we learn a lot by touring, by studio experience, working with different producers as well. And right now, I guess for the first time with the new album Swords of Dajjal, we really have a professional production. Does not mean we are a professional band. I still convinced we are like underground or very extreme, in this kind of unknown metal for the mainstream. But the production of the new album is professional, and this is really good. We finally achieved this.
Yeah. And I'd like to speak more about the production of the album and where you went to record this. Before we get there, though, I'd like to speak about your songwriting. How do you usually start a song? What's the process for you?
Process is to start. I always write with acoustic 12-string guitars. and with a paper and a pen, And mostly I found a riff or some continuation of notes, and I start to whistle this to sing it, try to find different pattern, and then I will find the complete sequence, and then I will build the rest of the song around it. So sometime I found the beginning of the song, and I go from here. Sometime I find a melody, but in the end will finish in the middle of the song, and I build the rest of the song around this melody. So it can depend to what I'm to. It's very hard in the beginning, the very first song of the album, because I really start from a blank page, and I'm thinking, where should I go? I want it's a continuation from the previous album, but I want also an evolution. I do not want it sound the same. So it's very hard, but the more it goes, the more it gets easy. When the album is almost over, it's very easy to write the last songs before it's connected to the rest of the music. So the puzzle is more easy to complete.
Now, you mentioned that you start with an acoustic 12-string guitar. What do you like about the 12-string guitar?
The first thing, you don't have to lose time for the setup. I mean, you can be just back from job, you sit on your couch, take your guitar and start to play. No time needed to check your amplifier or your distortion pedal or this or that. You can directly play very quickly, and I like it. And second thing, because there is the 12 string, you can tune out a little bit every string to create this kind of flanger, which will make like you play one guitar, but there is almost two musicians in the room with this oriental touch as well. So all in all, I think it's very good. If you are able to play a riff in acoustic guitar, and if it sounds good, it will sound huge with distortion for sure. But if you start to write with distortion and you are just sitting on this to make you a big sound, does not mean it's a good riff in the end. So I prefer the other way around.
Okay. Do you ever use the 12-string during your recordings?
Yeah, sure. Actually, on this album, I guess it's almost in every song. There was some time, it's very quiet in the mix, but we put to mark even more some strong time or patterns, like when the riff is starting, boom, like this, we have another 12 string in the back. If I don't mention it, maybe people will not hear. But if you listen clearly, you will get there is a 12 string in a lot of part of the album, and it adds a really good flavor. And there is some songs like Immediate Knowledge, for example, where we put some bridge only with acoustic guitar, and then you can hear very, very clearly this interlude, and it sounds very great as well.
When you're writing the songs, do you also make demos for the rest of your band, for your bandmates?
Yeah, sure. Actually, we work with Guitar Pro software, which is very easy because I can also write some drum patterns or bass pattern just to show my ideas. And then everyone can modify the same file because we do not live in the same city. We are very far from each other. So therefore, it's kind of practical for us to work on software just for the demo version. And then when we agree that a song is ready to be played, then we meet for rehearsal, jamming session, and we will record some proper demos. And in this case, for this album, we spent 2 years just about songwriting and demos and rehearsals. So it was a lot of time. Because as I mentioned before, everything was canceled with COVID. So honestly, we didn't have nothing else to do regarding music. So we spent a lot of time on the demo. I don't know how many versions of the song there is, but some versions are like 20 or 25 times modified from the start. So it was pretty interesting. And I guess that's why in the end, when we entered the studio, we were really so ready to record the album.
Now, do you like being able to spend a lot of time adjusting the songs, adjusting the song structures? Or do you prefer a shorter writing process?
No, I guess I'm too perfectionist to accept a short version. There is always something that you want to modify and modify. I mean, I was not even playing the bass for this album, but I was till the very last day writing some bass pattern I don't know why for, but I was like, maybe if the bass does this in the end, it will sound better. But it was not my role to do it, but I was doing it. Never mind. So I'm very much into it. I guess I'm not sure if I listen the album more or the demo version for a time, because it was a very long process, and maybe I can get satisfied easily if the result is good, but generally I prefer we spend a lot of time to improve and improve again the song till it's the best version that we can record.
So the fifth Necrowretch album is called Swords of Dajjal, and it was released through Season of Mist Records on the 2nd of February of this year. As you mentioned, there was a long process for the writing of this album due to COVID and due to you being stuck at home after you've released your last album. But even as you were writing, were you intentionally trying to do something new or something different from the previous album?
Yes, it was done to be something new actually. The main reason for this is we had a brand new lineup for this album. After the ones from Hell and the COVID, almost everyone left, especially the drummer. You know, we had a new drummer in the band, and everyone knows that for extreme metal, the drum is the most important instrument. I mean, you need to rely on a good drummer for a good performance. It's mandatory. So therefore, we are also a new bass player. So the full rhythmic section was completely new. So it's like we were building a new house together. You know, we knew how to make it, but it was a different one. And therefore, the music went into another direction. The tempos in terms of beat per minute are more slow compared to the previous Necrowretch. But in this pattern, we put more drums, notes in the end. So you can feel it's more slow, but more things are happening. And because it is more slow, we can play it better, and we can adjust some certain things that is not possible to do if you're really hurry with the tempo and you need to play very fast. So I guess it's like maybe a more complex but a more mature version of Necrowretch, an evolved version, version 2 if you want. And with all this musician, I had a lot of new ideas. And this time the drummer and the lead guitarist were coming back to me to tell, okay, this is very good, this is Necrowretch, but if we change this pattern, we can make it even better. And it was very great because it's something I didn't had with the old lineups. Mostly back in the days, I was writing music and people were just playing the music I wrote. But for this album, we wrote the music together and we played together. So it's a team building, if you want. And therefore, everything go in a better direction for this last album.
Do you want to say anything about the new lineup and where you found them?
Yeah, sure. Nicolas, actually, the drummer, played a live session many years ago with us for the second Asian tour in 2018 when we played Singapore, Malaysia, Taiwan, Philippines, and other countries. So at the time, he played the drum with us and everything went pretty well. So when I had to choose for a new lineup, of course, I contacted him first to be part of Necrowretch, and it was pretty easy to have him in the band fully. And for the rest of the lineup, they are from a French band, which does not exist right now. It was called Cadaveric Fumes. I mean, the listener can check out this band because it was very good death doom metal. But they split up, and for many years we shared the stage together in France with them, and I really like these guys. Good musician, and they were big fans of Necrowretch since the first demo. So of course I also got in touch with them to propose them to play Necrowretch. Now they were not busy with their old band anymore, and all in all, it was a good time for them to join in the band. And with this lineup, right now, I guess 3 years we are together. We already did one European tour, one new album that is just released right now, and we start to play many shows in France and more shows in Europe also to be announced for this year. So it's a solid one, I would say.
Can you tell me a little bit about the concept that ties the album together?
Yeah, actually, the Dajjal, I mean, it will not be something mysterious for you in Malaysia, but mostly in Europe, no one know what is it about. I can call this album maybe Swords of the Antichrist, you know, for a European audience, but I prefer Swords of Dajjal was something more strong because mostly in black and death metal, when the lyrics are about magical esotericism or kind of religious topic, it's always about Jesus Christ and the Judeo-Christian vision of heaven and hell. But there is not so much bands who venture into the depths of hell according to Islam and the Quran. Therefore, I think it was an interesting topic to create a song about this Dajjal, this kind of prophet of the end of the world, if we can say about it. And we wrote the first song, Swords of Dajjal, and we were so convinced about the demo version. It was already sounding so good, but we decided that we will craft the entire album around this song. It will become the title song, and all the album will be around, let's say, the thematic of some ancient evils in Middle East in general. Some songs are connected to some demons that you can hear about in the Quran. Some other songs are mostly about old gods from North Africa thousands of years ago, even before the Roman Empire. Some gods we don't really not know so much things about them, so it was a very good idea to write music around it. And some lyrics are also more personal, relied on some of my experience in Middle East in general, and that's all. I think it was a topic that was not so much used before in extreme metal. So again, I can talk about a blank page. We started from zero around this topic, and we had more freedom to write about it compared to some other topics. Let's say, for example, if you create a song about the Necronomicon and the Call of Cthulhu, I mean, everyone did it before, even Metallica. So you will need to stick to certain topics. But writing a song about an ancient god who lived 10,000 years ago and no one ever talked about it, then you can go from zero and you can create your own tale, your own story, your own vision of this devil. And it was the main goal of this album: go out from the common topics and do something with the own Necrowretch signature.
Yeah. I'm curious, where did you run into Dajjal? Where did you read about him?
In the Quran.
Okay. Well, I mean, is it something that you have an interest in Islamic literature and the Quran?
Yeah, actually, I grew up in a Muslim family, but we were not practicing, So I always had the choice to believe or not believe. Actually, I am interested about all these topics. Religion, I mean, what millions or billions of people believe on gods and build many things around them. But I'm also kind of skeptical to believe everything people can say. So I prefer to stay in the middle, to remain neutral and say, okay, these topics are so deep and so big. You can make 1 million album around it. You can make a lot of art, not only in music, but also for the paintings or the artwork in general. It's something very interesting. And I like to create my music around some esoteric or mystical thematics. But in any case, we are not bashing or denying anyone's belief. If people want to believe in Islam or in Jesus Christ or even some other things, it's up to them. I mean, no problem about it. We played many times in Muslim countries. We never had any problem. I'm really fine for it. So I do not want people to believe we do songs about Iblis or Shaitan, Dajjal to bash them. No, it's just a vision. Like you will go to see a horror movie. It's just a vision of horror, a tale that we are creating. But in any case, we are not against anyone. In opposite, I will say we are kind of open to all these topics because it can bring a lot of artistic value to us.
Where did you end up recording this album?
In Paris, in Studio Saint-Martre. It's a producer that is in the business for about 20 years, mostly for French bands, more professional bands, I will say. So when we were aiming to find a new studio to record the album, and also I moved to Paris a couple of years ago, so we started to look for a studio here. And Season of Mist actually recommend me this studio because many of their bands were going to record in this studio. So I listened carefully to the production, and what convinced me was the drum treatment, because in the drums you can hear every single detail. So even if the drummer hits the cymbal in the middle or on the edge of the right cymbal, you can hear the difference in the mix. And this is something very important for me because Nicolas is love to express himself through his instrument. Therefore, it was mandatory that we go in a studio that can give a birth to all his drum skills, that we can say about it. So we went in the studio and present the demo version of the album, and the producer, Francis, was already convinced about this material, and he said, okay, it's already sound good, I will make it sound huge, but we need to stay in the studio almost for 5 weeks to make it. So it was kind of busy to adjust our plannings and agenda for everyone to be in studio, let's say 5 weeks in a row, which is pretty big for a band like us. But we made it. It was a very long experience, but in the end, we were just on time. And it's good we took all this time to create the album because the result is very, very good.
Now, is that something that you'd want to do in the future? Spend another 5 weeks on an album, on the next album?
If I have the time, I wish we can do, yes.
Okay. Besides the way Francis records the drums and the clarity to the drums that you described, what else did you want him to bring to the sound of Necrowretch? Or what did you want him to bring to the sound of this album?
His vision as a producer in general, because it's not just a studio you go and you record. It's a studio you go and you have someone to guide you, to follow your goal, to follow your aim for your music. So in the beginning, we listened some various albums, and we say, okay, we want to have a song, something that sounds huge, like for example, Behemoth, but we do not want to have these super triggered drums. We want to have something more natural. But for example, we can hear in Gojira regarding the drums. But also we want something dirty, but we can find maybe in Vatain. So it was all in all. It took time to listen to our reference, and we found a good sound with the guitars in the beginning. And after this, for many weeks, when we had new ideas or we were recording something, he was also here to say, guys, stop. You are drifting from the goal you gave me 3 weeks ago. You should stay on the track. Or, for example, you can push a little bit on this idea because it goes in the right direction. When we were recording the drums, we tried different snares, and different kind of, I don't know how to say in English, but kind of sound for the snare. And one was sounding pretty good, but Francis told us we should not use this one because 5 weeks later, it will use the same frequency of the vocals. So, of course, we cannot really know where we will be in 5 weeks, but he knows. And he was right, because when we started the vocals pattern, then this frequency was clear and all the vocals can take this place in the mix. And it was the same for a lot of things, actually. I remember we spent 1 day just to try different guitars, amp, and different pedals to came back to the beginning on our first choice, actually. But it was good. We had this time to try the different version and to record a little bit and to see, okay, this one is really the best combination, and then we will start and we can record all and have no regrets. So all in all, what is good with the producer is like you enter the studio with your ID and you leave the studio with your mastering. It's not like this kind of mix master people send you by email 2 months later. The last week, the 5th week, was only about mixing and mastering, but we did together in the studio. And we can be sure at the very end, the product is the best thing we could deliver at the time.
Francis Cast handled everything from the engineering all the way to the mastering?
Yes.
Okay.
He even played some extra percussion on some songs, yeah, also.
It sounds like he's very open to experimentation, but also has a good blueprint of what you need for the finished product.
Yeah, I guess you just described perfectly. And also, he's a very cool guy. So it's a lot of fun time with him in studio. We can work some very intense day, like for example, 8 hours with no break. And some other days we can also decide today we will do maybe something shorter and focus on something different. The interesting part was about the vocals, because we spent, I think, the 1 week also was only dedicated to the vocals. But at the beginning, I wanted to make to record one song in the morning and one song in the afternoon. So I spent a lot of time to do the warm up, almost 1 or 1.5 hours, to be sure my voice is really warm enough. Then start to sing in a row, finish the song, take lunchtime, and do the same thing in the afternoon. We did this for the first day, and then Francis told me if I continue at this rhythm, I can make the album, but it will not be 100% of my capacity. So instead, we changed the planning, and I was doing the vocals in the morning, and in the afternoon, we were recording the 12-string guitars and this extra percussion. So I had 24 hours every time to recover my voice. So every morning when I was coming in studio, I was really able to deliver the best performance because my voice took time to rest. Of course, this is not something possible in our previous album. I remember the first album, I did all the vocals in one day, in a row, and later my voice was fucked up for 1 week. And this time it was way more clever to take a lot of time and to take time to cool down and then start on the next day. There was a song that was pretty fast, and we decided also to leave it and call the week off, take time off on the weekend, and then came back on the Monday and finished this last song with really the best capacity. And if Francis did not told me this, I'm so sure I would done all the vocals in a row because I was in the excitement, But he was also here to stop me down and to say, you will hurt your throat if you do this. It's time to take a break.
Yeah. So the promotion and touring plans for your last album were derailed by COVID. Were you able to get out on the road after this album was released?
Actually, we finally did the European tour in September 2022. So it was like a 2.5 years after the release of the album. But we played it. It was a good experience. It was good also to put some of these songs in live version. But really shortly after, we started to work on the recording of Dajjal. I guess actually we finished the tour, and the next month we entered the studio with Francis. So everything on our mind was already for the next album. So unfortunately, I think the Ones from Hell was like something that will stay only in studio and did not really live in live, because right now in the new set list, mostly we played the new album and some classics.
Were you able to tour this year? Or do you have any tours planned for this year?
Yeah, sure. Actually, for now, we focus on one shot because mostly we play in France. So it's better for us to play in the weekend, to have a bigger audience. And we will see for the end of the year, we have some tour plans in Europe as well. So just waiting everything to be settled and announced. But for now, it's mostly about France because our fan base is here. It's the most consistent here. And then we will start again in Europe. And I really hope that we can be back in Southeast Asia in 2025. We are working on it at the moment.
That'd be amazing. Looking forward to seeing you again for our 10th year anniversary.
Sure, definitely.
So, Swords of Dajjal is out now through Season of Mist Records. Vlad, please tell everyone how they can order the album.
Everyone can order the album on CD, LP, tape, directly through Season of Mist webshop. For people who live in Malaysia or Singapore, I guess also Pulverized Records from Singapore have some copies of the album. Maybe it will be quicker to get from there. Otherwise, people can also order directly from us from our website www.necrowretch.net, and we deliver everywhere in the world with tracking number. And we can also send our merchandising. We have some exclusive t-shirts here, hoodies, also some of the back catalog. I need to mention that the first three albums, Putrid Death, Sorcery, Bestial Rites, and Sap and Scourge, get reissued by Osmos Production in vinyl. So it's the first time in 10 years these albums are again available in vinyls and CD. So people can also order from us. And otherwise, for people who are more into digital music, they can listen on Spotify or on the Bandcamp directly, Apple Music, Deezer, I mean, all this, or YouTube. Also, the full album is on YouTube. You can have a look. Also, for people on YouTube, you can check the video we did for the last album. We have already 3 video clips out, which received some good feedback since the beginning. And we are working to create some new video for the end of the year and the next year as well.
Cool. So are the vinyl versions for Swords of Dajjal still available?
Almost sold out as we speak.
Okay.
I guess we have a couple of box still here, but a lot of vinyls were already sold before the release itself. So it's a pretty good feedback from here. But I do believe that if everything is sold out, surely we will do a repress somewhere. But if people want the original black version or the yellow transparent version or the gold version of the vinyl or everything at once, they can still order through our webshop or through Season of Mist or Necrowretch Bandcamp for now.
Cool, very cool. And if people want to follow Necrowretch online and see the videos that you mentioned or get tour dates, what's the best way to do that?
Instagram, I guess, is the most easy because you can have a lot of information just in one page. So it's just Necrowretch on Instagram. Also on Facebook, Necrowretch as well. And people can follow us on Spotify. Also, we put it some live version and special playlist. Maybe it can be interesting. And I guess this podcast will also be available on Spotify as well as some other podcasts with Necrowretch. And for YouTube, the most easy thing will be to follow the Season of Mist channel, because we have all the Necrowretch video in this channel, as well with some other good bands from the label that you can check in the same time.
Very cool. Is there anything else you want to say?
Terry Mackenzie?
Nice.
I would like
Merci
to say,
beaucoup.
wow, merci, sama, I can answer to you. I would like to say thanks a lot for this invitation. It was good to talk again 10 years after. I wish we can meet up next year if we come back. And I would like to thank all the people who support Necrowretch since now 2008. Been a long time on the road. And also all the people who will discover Necrowretch with the new album. Thanks for your support. Do not hesitate to reach us at any time for any question. We are available. And hopefully we will see you in your city or in your country in the future. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Vlad.